My wife confessed she was so bored she secretly called her ex-boyfriend to sleep with her while I was working late. Hello Reddit. I need some perspective, maybe just to vent, I don't know. I am Leo, 35 years old, and my wife Megan is 33. We have been married for 8 years, together for 12 total since our early 20s right after college. We met through mutual friends during my senior year and her junior year. It felt like one of those whirlwind romances you see in movies. Everything just clicked. We built a life together, bought a house in a nice suburb 3 years ago, both have decent careers. I work in software development, which sometimes requires long hours, especially during project deadlines. Megan works in marketing, a job she used to love but had been complaining about more frequently over the past year or so. We don't have kids yet, something we had discussed putting off until we felt more financially secure and settled, though maybe that was part of the problem brewing beneath the surface. Lately, maybe over the last 6 months, things started feeling off. Not in a huge, dramatic way initially, more like a slow leak. Megan seemed quieter, less engaged in our conversations. Our usual banter faded, replaced by shorter responses or just nods. Sex became less frequent, and when it did happen, it felt more mechanical, like she was just going through the motions. I tried talking to her about it a couple of times. I would ask if everything was okay, if she was stressed with work, if there was something I was doing wrong. She always brushed it off, saying she was just tired or had a lot on her mind with her job. She mentioned feeling generally bored with the routine of life, which I sympathized with to an extent. We all fall into ruts. I suggested we take a vacation, try a new hobby together, spice things like date nights up. She would agree in the moment, but then never really follow through with any enthusiasm. The planned date nights often got canceled last minute because she was supposedly too tired or had a headache. The real alarm bells started ringing about 2 months ago, around late spring. It was her phone habits. She became incredibly protective of her phone, which was new. It used to lie around casually on the coffee table or the nightstand. Now, it was always in her pocket, on her person, or face down beside her. She started taking calls in other rooms, closing the door, or stepping outside onto the patio. When I walked into the room while she was texting, she would quickly angle the screen away or close the app. Little things, maybe insignificant on their own, but together they painted a worrying picture. My mind started racing, thinking the worst, but I tried to push it down, telling myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she was planning a surprise for me or dealing with a work issue she didn't want to burden me with. Oh, how wrong I was. One evening, I came home early from work. A big project had finished ahead of schedule, and I was looking forward to surprising Megan, maybe suggesting we order takeout from that fancy Italian place she likes. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw an unfamiliar car parked a few houses down the street. It was a slightly sporty-looking sedan, nothing too flashy, but definitely not belonging to any of our immediate neighbors. I didn't think much of it at the time, maybe a visitor for someone else. I walked into the house calling out Megan's name. Silence. That was odd, her car was in the garage. I walked through the living room towards our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. As I got closer, I heard voices, low murmuring. My heart started pounding in my chest. It sounded like Megan, but there was another voice, a male voice I didn't recognize. I froze outside the door, straining to hear. I couldn't make out the exact words, but the tone was intimate, soft. Then I heard a distinct giggle from Megan, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months, followed by the man's low chuckle. A cold dread washed over me. I felt sick to my stomach. Every instinct screamed at me to barge in, to confront them, but another part of me, the part that desperately wanted this not to be happening, held me back. I quietly backed away, my legs feeling like lead. I retreated to the living room, collapsing onto the couch, my mind reeling. Who was that guy? What was going on in my own bedroom? The unfamiliar car down the street suddenly clicked into place. It had to be his. How long had this been happening? Was this the first time? My thoughts were a chaotic mess of anger, hurt, and disbelief. After what felt like an eternity, maybe 15 minutes, I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly composed myself, trying to look like I had just arrived, even though my insides were churning. Megan walked into the living room looking slightly flustered. Her hair was a bit messy and her cheeks were flushed. She jumped when she saw me sitting there. "Oh, hi Leo," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I didn't expect you home so early." "I just got back," I replied, keeping my voice as steady as possible, though it felt like a monumental effort. "Project finished up. Who was here?" Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Here, Nobody was here. I was just tidying up upstairs. Why? I looked her straight in the eye. I heard voices, Megan, a man's voice, in our bedroom, and there's a strange car parked down the street. Panic flickered across her face before she quickly tried to mask it with indignation. You must have misheard. Maybe it was the TV. I had it on earlier, and I have no idea about any car, Leo. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you're just tired from work. This was classic gaslighting, trying to make me doubt my own senses. But I wasn't imagining things. I heard them. I didn't push it further right then. I knew I wouldn't get the truth out of her, not like this. But the seed of certainty had been planted. She was lying and something deeply wrong was happening. The rest of the evening was excruciatingly tense. We barely spoke. Megan avoided eye contact, busying herself with chores, constantly checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I felt like a stranger in my own home. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the sounds I heard, her flushed face, her terrible attempt at lying. I needed proof, undeniable proof. I hated the thought of snooping. It felt like a violation of trust, but clearly, trust had already been shattered. I just needed to confirm the extent of the damage. The next day, while Megan was at work, I started digging. I felt like a scumbag doing it, but I had to know. I remembered we had a shared cloud account where photos and some data were backed up automatically. I logged in, my hands trembling slightly. I scrolled through recent photo backups, nothing immediately incriminating. Then I checked the phone logs available through our mobile carrier's website. My blood ran cold. There were dozens of calls and texts exchanged over the past few weeks with a number I didn't recognize. Many of the calls were lengthy, especially during times I knew I was working late or out of town on business trips. There were calls made on the day I came home early and heard the voices. Several texts were exchanged just minutes before I walked into the house that day. I felt a wave of nausea. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I used the Find My Device feature linked to her phone through our shared account. It showed a location history. Over the past month, on several afternoons when she claimed to be working late or meeting friends, her phone pinged at motels on the outskirts of town, the cheap, seedy kind. And sometimes, it pinged at an address across town, an apartment complex I didn't recognize. The final piece fell into place when I did a reverse lookup on the phone number she had been calling and texting so frequently. The name that came back hit me like a physical blow. Ryan Peterson. Ryan, her college ex-boyfriend. The one she dated for about a year before we got together. I remembered her talking about him early in our relationship. She described him as exciting, passionate, a bit of a bad boy, but also unreliable and immature, which was why they eventually broke up. She had assured me years ago that he was ancient history, that they hadn't spoken in ages. Clearly, that was another lie. It all made a horrible kind of sense now. The boredom she complained about, the distance, the secretiveness. She hadn't just been unhappy, she had actively sought out her ex, the guy she associated with excitement, to alleviate her boredom behind my back. In our house, in our bed. The level of betrayal felt immense, suffocating. It wasn't just cheating, it was the calculated nature of it, reaching back into her past for a thrill because her present life with me apparently wasn't enough. I spent the rest of the day numbly gathering evidence, taking screenshots of the call logs, the location history, the number lookup. I needed it all laid out, undeniable. I couldn't function at work, calling in sick. I just sat there, staring at the proof of my wife's infidelity, my marriage crumbling around me. That evening when Megan came home, I was ready. I waited until after our silent, tense dinner. We were sitting in the living room, the television murmuring ignored in the background. I turned to her, my voice cold, devoid of the warmth it usually held for her. Megan, we need to talk about Ryan. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock and fear. Ryan? What about Ryan? I haven't talked to Ryan in years. Stop lying, Megan, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I know everything. I know about the calls, the texts, the motels. I know he was here yesterday when I came home early. I know you called him because you were, and I quote what you told your friend Sarah in a text I saw backed up, so incredibly bored with me and our life. You wanted some excitement, so you called your ex to come over and fuck you in our bed. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For a moment there was silence, thick with unspoken truths. Then the dam broke. Tears started streaming down her face. She didn't even try to deny it anymore. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, I did it. I am so sorry, Leo. I felt so stuck, so invisible. Our life felt so predictable, so monotonous. You are always working. We never do anything fun anymore. Ryan he reached out a few months ago, just checking in, and we started talking. It felt exciting again, like I was young and desirable. I got caught up in it. I made a terrible mistake. I was bored, yes, that's part of it, but it's more complicated. More complicated. I cut her off, the anger finally boiling over. More complicated than inviting your ex-boyfriend into our home, into our marriage bed because you were bored. Because I work hard to provide for the life you claim to want. You didn't feel stuck, Megan. You felt entitled to betray me. You didn't make a mistake. You made a series of deliberate choices again and again for months. You lied to my face every single day. She continued to cry, offering weak justifications about feeling neglected and wanting attention, how Ryan made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. She swore it was just physical, that she still loved me, that we could fix this. But hearing her admit it, hearing her try to rationalize betraying me in the most intimate way possible because of boredom, it solidified something within me. The hurt was immense, deeper than anything I had ever felt. But beneath the hurt, a cold resolve was forming. I couldn't unhear what I'd heard, unsee the evidence, unfeel this colossal betrayal. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had chosen to destroy it for cheap thrills with her ex. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't be in the same house as her right now. I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother Gary. His place was small, but it felt like a sanctuary away from the wreckage of my home. Megan kept calling, texting, begging me to come back, promising it would never happen again, that she would do anything. But her words felt hollow, tainted by the lies and the image of her with Ryan. So here I am, Reddit. Staying on my brother's couch, trying to process the fact that my marriage is likely over because my wife got bored and decided to outsource her entertainment needs to her ex-boyfriend. Part of me feels like I should try couples counseling, explore the issues she raised about feeling neglected, but the other, much louder part feels like this betrayal is unforgivable. Calling her ex for sex because she was bored. It feels so disrespectful, so callous. Was I wrong to leave immediately? Am I the asshole for thinking this is a point of no return regardless of the reasons she gave? What would you do? Update 1. Wow, okay, first off, thank you, Reddit. I posted my story late last night, mostly just needing to get it all out somewhere, and I woke up this morning to hundreds of comments and messages. I'm honestly overwhelmed by the support and the shared experiences many of you have gone through. It doesn't make the situation any less painful, but it helps to know I am not alone in navigating this kind of nightmare. Reading your advice and perspectives has been incredibly clarifying during a time when my own thoughts are just a jumbled mess. To answer a few common questions and give you an update, I'm still staying with my brother Gary. He has been amazing, just letting me exist, offering an ear when I need it, and providing copious amounts of bad action movies and pizza, which surprisingly helps. Megan has continued to bombard me with calls and texts. Apologies, declarations of love, promises to go to therapy, blaming Ryan, blaming herself, blaming our routine, blaming me for working too much. It's a confusing mix, and frankly, it mostly sounds like noise to me right now. The core issue remains. She chose to cheat repeatedly with her ex because she felt bored and entitled to excitement outside our marriage. The why almost doesn't matter as much as the what she did. Many of you advised me to see a lawyer immediately, and I took that advice. Yesterday afternoon, I had a consultation with a highly recommended divorce attorney in my city. I brought the evidence I had gathered, the call logs, the location history screenshots, the text message backup where she explicitly mentioned being bored and calling Ryan. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Mrs. Davis, was very direct. She confirmed that while our state is a no-fault divorce state, meaning infidelity doesn't legally impact the ability to get divorced, the evidence of her using marital funds for the affair, those motel stays weren't free. I checked our joint account statements and found several suspicious cash withdrawals and charges at places near those motel locations could potentially influence the division of assets or alimony consideration. It felt sickeningly validating to have the financial aspect confirmed. It wasn't just emotional betrayal. She was literally funding her affair with our money. Mrs. Davis strongly advised me to cease all direct communication with Megan and let her handle interactions from now on. She also suggested I secure my finances, which I did immediately after the meeting. I opened a new bank account in my name only and had my paycheck redirected there. I also froze our joint credit cards after documenting the recent suspicious charges. It felt surreal, taking these steps, dismantling the shared life we had built piece by piece. One thing many of you suggested was informing Ryan's current partner if he had one. This was something I debated internally. Part of me wanted nothing to do with Ryan or his life, just wanted him out of mine. Another part felt that if he had a partner, she deserved to know what kind of person she was with. I did some digging online, nothing too invasive, just checking social media profiles linked to the phone number. It turns out Ryan is engaged. His fiancée's profile pictures show a happy-looking couple, engagement ring photos posted just a few months ago. Seeing that made my decision clear. His fiancée, let's call her Sophia, deserved to know before she married this guy. I wrestled with how to do it. I didn't want to be malicious, just factual. I ended up sending Sophia a carefully worded, anonymous email yesterday evening. I kept it brief and to the point. I stated that I had concrete evidence that her fiancé, Ryan Peterson, had been involved in an affair lasting several months with a married woman. I didn't name Megan. I mentioned the time frame and suggested she look into his activities and whereabouts during specific dates, maybe check his phone records if she could. I attached no proof, just gave her the information and the warning, leaving it up to her what she did with it. I don't know if she'll believe it or investigate, but I feel I did the right thing by giving her the heads up. Whether that counts as revenge, I don't know. It felt more like a necessary, albeit unpleasant, duty. Emotionally, I am still a wreck. Some moments I feel numb, others I am filled with blinding rage, and then comes the crushing sadness. The thought of Megan laughing with him in our bedroom while I was working late to build our future, it's a wound that feels impossibly deep. Gary keeps reminding me to eat and sleep, small things that feel monumental right now. Your comments reminded me that healing isn't linear and that it's okay to feel all these conflicting emotions. For now, I am focusing on the practical steps, securing my finances, letting the lawyer handle communication, and just trying to get through each day. Thank you again for listening and for the solid advice. I will post another update when there are significant developments. Update 2. Hello again, Reddit. It has been about 3 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. The initial shock and raw pain have subsided somewhat, replaced by a grim determination to get through this and rebuild my life. Thank you again for all the continued support and messages. Reading them has been a source of strength on difficult days. The divorce process is moving forward, albeit slowly and contentiously. As predicted by my lawyer, Mrs. Davis, Megan did not take the news well when she was officially served with divorce papers. Initially, there were floods of desperate messages relayed through her lawyer. I maintained no direct contact as advised, alternating between begging for forgiveness and accusing me of abandoning our marriage without trying. Then her stance shifted towards anger and demands. She hired her own lawyer, and the negotiations began. The evidence I gathered turned out to be crucial. My lawyer presented the proof of the affair, including the bank statements showing cash withdrawals and charges near the motels during the times Megan met Ryan. We argued that these funds were marital assets used to facilitate the affair, and therefore should be accounted for in the division of property. Megan's lawyer initially tried to dismiss it, but the documentation was clear. This definitely strengthened my position in the negotiations. Megan had apparently hoped for a quick, amicable split where she would get half of everything with minimal fuss. Realizing that her actions had financial consequences seemed to hit her hard. There was a particularly satisfying moment during a mediation session conducted via video conference, thankfully. Her lawyer was arguing about spousal support, claiming Megan needed it to maintain her lifestyle. Mrs. Davis calmly presented the evidence of the marital funds spent on the affair and pointed out that Megan's boredom didn't negate her ability to support herself, especially given her marketing career. She also highlighted Megan's deceitful conduct. The mediator seemed to take note. While the final settlement isn't finalized yet, things are leaning favorably towards me regarding asset division, and the possibility of me paying significant alimony seems increasingly unlikely. Megan's affair didn't just cost her the marriage, it's costing her financially too. It feels like a just consequence, woven directly from her choices. Regarding Ryan and his fiancée, Sophia. I never heard directly from Sophia after sending that anonymous email, and honestly, I didn't expect to. However, through the grapevine, mutual acquaintances from college who are still vaguely connected to Ryan, I heard that their engagement is off. Apparently, Sophia confronted Ryan. He initially denied everything, but she must have found her own proof because the wedding was abruptly canceled about a month after I sent the email. I heard Ryan was devastated and tried desperately to win her back, but Sophia held firm and cut him out of her life completely. Good for her. While I take no joy in someone else's relationship ending, I feel a sense of grim satisfaction that Ryan faced consequences for his actions too. He knowingly participated in wrecking a marriage, and now his own future plans are derailed. It feels like the universe delivered a bit of karma there. Maybe Sophia dodged a bullet. Megan found out about Ryan's broken engagement. Apparently, Ryan contacted her in a panic after Sophia dumped him. According to her lawyer's communications to mine, in some misguided attempt to paint Megan as a victim of Ryan's manipulation, which Mrs. Davis promptly shut down. Megan was upset that her affair partner was now single and seemingly trying to rekindle things more seriously with her just as her marriage was imploding. The irony is not lost on me. She sought excitement with him, and now she's dealing with the messy fallout of his life imploding too. It sounds like a complete mess, and frankly, I am just glad to be detaching myself from it all. As for me, I am doing better, truly. Moving out was the best decision I could have made. I found a decent apartment closer to my work. Being in a new space, one without the ghosts of betrayal, has been incredibly healing. I have been focusing on myself, hitting the gym regularly, reconnecting with friends I had neglected, throwing myself into hobbies like hiking and coding personal projects I never had time for before. I started seeing a therapist a couple of months ago, and it's been immensely helpful in processing the grief, anger, and rebuilding my self-esteem, which took a significant hit. My brother Gary remains my rock, and my parents, though initially shocked and saddened, have been nothing but supportive of my decision. Even some mutual friends who were put in an awkward position have quietly reached out to offer support, having heard whispers of what Megan did. It showed me who my real friends are. The divorce isn't final yet, but we are getting closer. Mrs. Davis is confident we'll reach a settlement soon that reflects the financial realities of the situation, meaning I won't be unfairly penalized for Megan's choices. I'm starting to feel hopeful about the future again. It's a strange feeling after months of darkness, but it's there. Looking back, the betrayal still stings, but it doesn't consume me anymore. I learned some hard lessons through this. Firstly, trust your gut. Those little signs I initially dismissed were warnings I should have heeded sooner. Secondly, you cannot make someone happy or fulfilled if they are determined to seek it elsewhere or are fundamentally dissatisfied with themselves. Megan's boredom was likely a symptom of her own issues, not just a reflection of our marriage, though I acknowledge I wasn't perfect either. Her solution, however, was entirely her destructive choice. Thirdly, self-respect is paramount. Walking away from a situation that fundamentally disrespects you is not failure, it's strength. I'm slowly reclaiming my life. I'm looking forward to finalizing the divorce, closing that chapter, and focusing on building a future based on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine connection. Maybe I'll even start dating again eventually, but for now, I am content working on myself and enjoying my newfound freedom. To anyone going through something similar, know that it gets better. It takes time, effort, and allowing yourself to feel the pain, but healing is possible. You deserve happiness and respect. Don't settle for less. Thank you, Reddit, for being a part of my journey through this. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.